lionesses. I'm just going to go forward. I just want to investigate a little bit more, just actually have a look around us. Yes, the whole pride. I found them. Hi lions, hi lions. It's going to get us a nice shot. Here we go. And the little cubs are on their way. Let me call this in because there are a couple of guides helping. Let me actually just exactly check which junction I'm on. Right. The mobiles are relocated on the Nkuhuma Pride. They're just off Parallel Road. It's just myself here, space for two. I'm going to have to do a lot of talking, I can only suspect, on the radio now. We'll see if anybody can hear me. Hello, little cubs with their big bellies, nice and full, as you can see. They don't look too impressed, though, that they've been rained on. They look a little bit miserable this morning. At least you all have full tummies. Now, I can only see 3 lionesses. I don't know if there's maybe another lioness where the cubs have been laying, or another 2 lionesses where the cubs are. We'll have a little look around here. And it isn't uncommon for them to sort of lie scattered out like this. Is very normal. So don't be alarmed in any way. Can any mobiles copy me? Okay, copy. Thanks, Jamie. There we go. Just checking that they did get the message. And it's amazing. These little lions don't even look like lion cubs anymore. They're getting so big now. They're looking more and more adult-like every single day. Starting to lose their fluffiness now. Bless you. They look very, very ill. They make me nervous when they look like this. After the rain has dampened them, they look very scary. The big eyes, their bodies that are a bit dark now, a little bit mangy. But I think they'll be okay. And then, of course, their wet coats. No, too full. I'm just going to lay right down over here. Oh, it's a big yawn from a little lion. Well, they're all huddled up underneath the smallest wattle you've ever seen. Hello, little girl. Not fans of the rain, this lot. Now, Michael, you were wondering, and you were saying that Nkuhuma's main food source over the winter, the drier months, was buffalo. You're very correct in saying that. So now you're wondering, will the lions have to expand the type of food that they're going after because the buffalo have now regained their strength? The herds have also split up and have moved out of this area. They will have to indeed. They're going to have to start looking for something like kudu. Like I said, in the south, we noticed that in the summer months... Sorry, I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio again. They used to catch kudu quite often. Kudu, and then they were catching lots and lots of warthogs, the odd zebra. We didn't see the Southern Pride feeding on many zebra, just occasionally. But yes, they will, and they'll be fine. Obviously, they prefer something like a buffalo because it is big enough for them to feed on for a good amount of time. So that's one of the reasons why they would prefer to go for a buffalo over a kudu, is the fact that it would last a little bit longer. However, they're not going to say no to a wildebeest or a zebra or anything really. They'll eat whatever they can catch. All the little ones catching up on some grooming. Obviously, they've been racing around and maybe playing with each other during the night. Now, Cat in Tampa, good morning to you. You would like to know how far the lions are from the hyenas. They're not far at all, actually. Less than a mile, probably only about half a mile away. So it's not far at all. And this road is just tucked away a little bit. You don't see it. You would never see these from the junction that we passed earlier. So I think they drank water. Like I said, they cut straight across from Red Dam and came back this way. And I think that they are probably on their way back north again. I will suspect that this evening that they will probably be back in Djuma. Maybe they even get moving now. It's a nice, fresh, cool day. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Where are the other two lionesses? I haven't seen them yet. Have you seen them yet, Wiem? Maybe they're just lying off somewhere around the corner. I mean, the tree that they are sitting under isn't really the biggest tree to try and keep the rain off of you. You can see it's a small little wattle. There's a silver cluster leaf and a bush willow also growing there that they're trying to hide underneath. Well, I'm so happy that the Nkuhumas were an easy find this morning, because tracking them would have been an absolute disaster. But at least we managed to find them again. But Brent is out and about now, ready for his walk. Let's go across and say good morning to him. It's nice to see that beautiful big cats again. We've been lucky with seeing lion and leopard on both drives. But I'm always happy when the Nkuhumas are, of course, around. They're my favorite pride of lions that I've ever come across, especially in the dry seasons when they are so good at catching buffalo. But, of course, it's going to get more and more difficult now, and it's going to start being a challenge. And these little cubs are hopefully going to realize how spoiled they were during the drought that we had, where, unfortunately, the buffalo, warthogs, and then of course hippos were unfortunately suffering from the terrible drought and the harsh conditions. And that's how it goes, up and down. Good one moment for the predators during the drought, lots of food available, but now the tables turn slightly as the greenery in the bush starts to get thicker and thicker. Now it's a little bit more difficult, but there are still a couple of buffalo around, but just a few. Really aren't too many. I love the way when they're having a sleep, when they settle in and they pop their paws up, of course, onto a branch. It always looks so comfortable, but dirty feet. So you can see they've gone down to have a drink somewhere, maybe from a mud wallow. The mud. And I think they might sleep here. I was hoping we were going to get lucky enough and have them grooming and then sort of up and moving around, seeing as though they haven't moved too far away from where they were last seen yesterday. And I'm wondering, there's a bit of blue sky now, the sun might come out. Now, Leilani, you are wondering if I know how many cubs are here and if they have lost any. Sadly, they have lost. They've lost 2 cubs. We initially had 8 lion cubs, but they died from something called white muscle disease, Leilani. So they've only got the 6 left now, but they're looking strong and healthy. But white muscle disease basically came from the drought that we had. So because there was no grass around, and the very, very little bits of shrub, or bits of grass, that were around, were very, very poor in nutrients. It was just like eating straw, I'd suppose. And a lot of the animals that strictly graze were actually starting to browse as well, so to eat leaves. And their digestive systems aren't always able to digest the leaves as well as they are able to digest grass. And eventually what happened is that there was a lack of nutrients in the grass, which caused the buffaloes to get this condition, basically where they were starving to death. They had no nutrients, not enough vitamin E. And when they cut open the carcasses of the buffalo, you should have seen how terrible they look. Also very, very white in color, very pale. And the same thing happened to the lions. The lions were feasting upon the buffalo that had unfortunately succumbed to the harsh conditions of the drought, and they were then not getting any nutrients at all into their system that they needed on a regular basis, and it caused this disease. And 2 lion cubs sadly didn't make it, but luckily The Nkuhumas are a very strong pride with the most amazing genetics, and it seems as though they have pulled through. But we'll see. The success rate of lion cubs is not very high, or for any of predators really. The fact that 6 have made it and the 3 oldest cubs are 7 months is pretty spectacular. So they've got a fighting chance. Now, Alan, you are wondering if the drought affected reproduction at all with the lions. No, it didn't. It actually works in favor, just because there's so much food around for the lions to feast on. As the seasons become greener and greener, it becomes a little bit more difficult because all the animals start to spread out and move around. So it's best that they have, of course, their cubs as early as they can in the year, so that when they start weaning off of their milk and just onto solids, so they start eating solids at a very young age, that there is a lot of food around for them then. We'll keep an eye on that other lioness and see where she's going to head off to. See if anybody's going to follow her. They're looking a lot cleaner though now since we arrived. Perhaps they know that the rain is maybe easing off a little bit, because when we first arrived here they weren't grooming at all. They were just sort of sitting. It was drizzling a little bit. Now they seem to be a bit more relaxed. Oh, finally some action. Let's see where they go. We're going to try and stick with these lions for a little bit. We need to turn around very quickly. So let's go back across to Brent. And apparently he's got a foam nest of some sort for you to see. And the impala, the Nkuhumas haven't really been doing too much. However, a herd of impala seem to have stumbled across these Nkuhumas, because we can just hear them snorting in the distance. Of course, as I say that, they all stop snorting. Very typical. It's a little bit in the distance. Maybe they'll come closer. But it's very, very thick here. And I think what happened is one of the lionesses moved up. Looks like she had her nose to the ground and she was smelling something. So I think when she moved out into the area, the impala spotted her. And they may, like I said, they may come closer. It's not uncommon for impala, once they have spotted predators, to sort of move towards the predator and snort and make sure that they know that they are there and that we have been spotted. Don't try and stalk us because you have already been seen. And well, a lion would have absolutely no chance in chasing down an impala if the impala knew that those lions were there, of course. Hello, little ones. They are such darling little animals, and it is such a privilege to be able to sit out here in the wild and actually watch them like this, and watch them from young all the way to when they grow up. It's one of my favorite things to do. But they're starting to act like little adults now. There's not so much playing going on anymore like they used to do. I'm sure you've noticed that at the rate that the lion cubs do. You need to have a lot of sleep as well. But no more tree climbing in Nkuhumas, it seems. We haven't seen them doing that in ages. Those were some of my favorite moments spent with the Nkuhumas. Now, Joe, you were actually wondering if lions can climb trees. They can indeed. They are not too shabby at going up the tree, but coming down a tree is a completely different story. So they're going to make sure they don't go too high up, or if it is a tree that they are climbing, it better be an easy one to get down, because lions can hurt themselves quite severely if they don't come down the tree very well. They can fall out of it. I've seen lions falling out of trees. That actually happens on more of a regular basis than you would think. But when the little lions are quite young, and we saw it a lot with the Nkuhuma cubs, is that they climb up marula trees, anything that's sort of half pushed over by an elephant, And it's good practice. It helps strengthens the muscles, it helps with balance. And of course, when they do get big like the adults are, they have to pounce onto the back of a buffalo in order to try and take it down. And what better way to practice your balance than to climb around on a fallen tree with your siblings pushing you around? You learn to balance very quickly after you've fallen off a couple of times. But not so much anymore. We've even seen the adult lions going up trees. And in Kenya and Tanzania, they actually sleep up in the trees to keep away from the insects. Now, Angelina, you're wondering how long before the male or these lions start scent marking. I've only seen one male. I think there is only one male left out of the cubs now, if I'm not mistaken. I wanted to have a proper count, but I haven't really had the greatest opportunity. So they won't really start marking yet. It's really only once they've been told to go off and out on their own will they start to mark. But it's very, very tough for a male lion, especially once he's reached about 2.5 years and he's being told to head off on his own now. Life just gets even more difficult because you have to live in between all the other established lion territories. And like I said earlier, you got to be careful you don't get caught by some resident males that are on a territorial patrol, because if they catch you, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. But they will scent mark, and I think that's what gets them in trouble a lot of the time. Rightio, we're going to send you back across to Brent, though, who has apparently got a lion calling nearby. One of the lionesses is done. Look how she's laying. She got up and she moved around, and she decided that if it does start to drizzle again, this fallen over guarri tree would be the best shelter possible. And she's gone and she's tucked herself right underneath. Bless you. And she's sneezing. And that's a good spot as well. She's covered herself now with all those leaves. It would just make it more difficult for some of those biting flies, which are very annoying to the animals out here, and they cause much irritation. It would also prevent them from flying around in there. So it's actually, strategically wise, it's a very, very good place, of course, to sit. Now we're very close. And then there's some more. So we have the roof on, of course, so that's the black bar that you see every now and then, as it can be quite difficult to position ourselves carefully. Now this is the lioness that's got the injury on her shoulder, and she's had it for quite some time now. We saw it the other morning, a couple of mornings ago, probably actually about a week ago now. And you can see that it's healing up quite nicely. It doesn't seem to be oozing as much. I remember the last time we saw it, it had looked as if it was oozing quite a bit. But it looks to be okay now. And it looked like a tooth mark to me, or it could have been a horn. We weren't 100% sure. Obviously, we can really only speculate, as we don't... very quickly, we're going to go across to Brent. We've got the most incredible angle of a lion at the moment, as this lioness sits right next to the vehicle. Can you see that? Have you ever looked down onto the... right there. Not afraid at all. And as long as we sit very still, she won't really be bothered by us too much. You can see she hasn't even really looked up once towards VM and I. She's more worried about keeping her feet clean this morning. But they're not really moving too far. They're just sort of hopping across to the other side of the road under a couple more trees that will hopefully provide them with more shade throughout the day. And I don't think we're going to get them moving around too much. I think that they're probably going to settle in around here and have a siesta for most of the day. I think it might get a bit warmer a little bit later. The clouds seem to be lightening up a bit, and hopefully the sun will be able to poke its nose out too. Right. Off she goes, back towards the rest of the gang. Stopping for one last scratch. Look, she does look like they're going to move slightly out. And we'll see how much movement they're going to get up to. Now, Anna Marie, you were wondering this morning if it is more difficult for the lions to hunt with all the thicker vegetation that's around. Now, if the big herds of buffalo and things were still around, so let's take out the equation that the buffalo have now split up and gone into smaller groups because there's more food around now. Now, if those big herds and were still around here, I think they'd be catching even more buffalo because the lions have got denser vegetation to hide behind now, which makes it a lot easier for them. See, hunting out in these thicker areas is much easier than hunting out on a big open plain, where you've got to be quiet and careful with every step that you take, because if you blow your cover, you could be in a lot of trouble. You'll give the entire pride away, and the animals will just run away from you. Whereas out here, where there's a bit more vegetation to sort of, hide your noses behind and your bums around, it's a little bit more lenient, I suppose you could say. And the animals sort of get away, I think, with a little bit more here. They can spread themselves out a lot easier, and then, of course, ambushing. If they do startle one, which is a technique that they do use, and flush the prey towards a couple of lions that are sitting behind the shrub, well, then it helps quite a bit. We need to try and reposition very quickly. I'm going to see who's behind. We'll quickly go around and see what they are going to go and do. Ah, okay. So they've just settled behind a shrub. Let's have a look at these lions over here. Who's left? One lioness left. Hi, beautiful girl. Look who it is. Hello, girl. Just having a look at us. Probably sussing out the roof. The roofs don't seem to be too common up here in the north. Oh, look at that big tick that she's got on her left eye. Can you see that? Oh my goodness. Just hanging on the edge of her eyelid. Now, eventually that's going to get so big, if she doesn't swipe it off with her paw when she grooms herself, eventually it will get so big that it will just pop off and then carry on for as long as it needs to. But that must be quite annoying. Imagine having a parasite hanging from the edge of your eyelid. But it shouldn't cause her too much damage. Now, those particular ticks, they're sort of grey ticks with a very soft body. It's not a bond tick. Now, they can, oh my goodness, it doesn't look like a massive one, but they can suck up quite a large amount of blood. I'm not sure how much, but they basically will get to the size, if you're from South Africa, of about a 1 rand coin. They get really big. You see some massive ones before they sort of pop off. So I suppose, oh my goodness, now I don't even know. I think USA money is a little bit too big. There's nothing quite really the size.
Another one on the right.
Another one on the right. Oh, they're covered in ticks though. But eventually it will pop off, and I presume though the bigger it gets though, you can see when she wants to blink, it's causing a little bit of irritation. She might actually just take her paw to her face and try and wipe it across. Oh, big yawn. Or hopefully another lioness, when she comes to greet her, will just give her a nice big lick as well. And that could help get rid of that tick quite easily too. And that's what they rely on when they do groom each other, is that they can help get rid of parasites in the most unwanted places that maybe they could not potentially reach. Big yawns. I wonder if she's not going to get up and move. It's a bit of a stretch. Yes. I think she's realized that everybody else has moved away from her now. Hey, big girl. You've got a bit of a walk. And I don't think we're going to have actually too much more rain for the rest of the day. The big clouds have all disappeared now. Isn't this just a lovely lioness? We'll stick here because hopefully she gets up and she comes straight past us. Oh wow, look at that. Looking straight towards us. Now, Anna Marie, you're a little bit concerned and wondering if that tick would cause any obstruction to her vision. Not at this size, it'll be all right. You can see it causing a little bit of irritation when she closes her eye. But other than that, she should be okay. And the bigger it gets, it might even be awkward for that tick at the position that it is at. The bigger it gets, the easier it is going to be to take off as well. So I think that whether it's herself removing it with her paw, or perhaps rubbing her face against a tree, or another lioness coming through and grooming her, I think that that tick will fall off or be taken off in a little while. I don't think it will be there for too long. Now we know what this means. If she has stopped to give herself a little groom, she's now woken up. I suspect that she's going to get up. There we go. That's what we were waiting for. She's going to take the scenic way around. As she disappears now just in front of the vehicle, we're going to hopefully try and reposition and get a better spot to view the Nkuhumas. But I believe that Brent has got a very big lion track to show you all.